Exposed: how a heartwarming black woman's incredible stand cancelled a 5B deal with billionaires. In the heart of Maplewood, where old brick buildings lined Main Street stood witness to generations, Rosa Martinez, a fierce and fiery spirit, dedicated her life to nurturing hope. The vibrant owner of the community center, with a warm smile that could melt the coldest of hearts, she had become a beacon of support for families struggling against the tides of economic hardship. Children danced through her doors, laughter spilling like sunshine, while adults found a safe harbor in her embrace. But the calm of their quaint town shattered when whispers turned to roars. An announcement came: a consortium of wealthy billionaires was planning a $5 billion redevelopment deal that promised modernization, glitzy jobs, and prosperity. Excitement buzzed in the air, pulsating through the streets like electricity. However, Rosa felt a tightening in her chest. Dreams flourished on glittering facades, but beneath it lurked anxiety. As she delved deeper, her heart sank. The plan threatened to bulldoze beloved neighborhoods, uprooting families from homes that had cradled their stories for decades. Anger ignited inside her, a determined beacon against the storm. She called an urgent meeting at the community center. Maplewood deserves to thrive, but not at the cost of our roots. We're fighting for our home. Her voice rang out, stirring souls. As tensions erupted, friends turned against friends. Heated conversations echoed in the streets, leaving Rosa in the eye of a hurricane. Would they choose the glimmer of wealth, or the warmth of their heritage? A young mother with tears in her eyes spoke of her late grandmother's house, the ancestral stories woven into its walls. An elder raised his voice against the encroachment of change. The heartbreak was palpable, but Rosa remained resolute, urging them to unite. Each testimony became a thread weaving a tapestry of solidarity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days grew heavy with anticipation as the public hearing approached. Tension thickened the air. Will they rally behind her? In an impassioned plea, Rosa stood before a crowd, fear coursing through her, but her voice unwavering. You cannot put a price on our community. These billionaires want to erase our history for a shiny facade. Her words rang like a clarion call. Gasps filled the room, eyes widening with renewed resolve. Families clung to each other, recognizing the stakes. Their very identity dangled in the balance. As she unveiled the developers' hidden agendas, something shifted within the crowd. Hope ignited like a flame. She painted a vision, a future rich in heritage, love, and community. Rosa's heart raced, pulses thundered with emotion. Would Maplewood find its strength in unity? The echo of her spirit resounded against the risks they faced. Families glanced at one another, understanding blossoming amid the chaos. The room held its breath, tensions at a breaking point, and for a moment, time stood still. Would they choose to fight for their home or let the allure of wealth tear their loved ones apart? What decision lay ahead for Maplewood's heart? As Rosa raised her hands, a gesture of both peace and defiance, the storm loomed large, but hope shimmered on the horizon, fragile yet fiercely resilient. The next chapter awaited, cloaked in uncertainty but full of promise. The day of the public hearing finally arrived, heavy with expectancy and dread. All around Maplewood, a palpable sense of urgency gripped the community like a thick fog. Rosa arrived early, her heart beating wildly, each thump echoing the voices of her neighbors who felt the weight of the moment. Outside the city hall, people gathered, hushed conversations swirling through the crowd, a mix of excitement and apprehension in the air. Inside, the room was packed. Rows of chairs filled with anxious faces, each person a fierce guardian of their story. The mood shifted when Rosa stepped up to the microphone. She could feel their eyes locked on her, an ocean of trust and concern. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the torrent of emotions. "Let me tell you something," she began, her voice firm yet warm. "Maplewood is not just a place on a map, it is our home, our heart. These billionaires want to wrap up our community in a shiny bow, but at what cost? Our history? Our families?" As she spoke, she could see nods of agreement ripple through the crowd. The fear and doubt that had clouded her heart began to lift, replaced with a fierce determination. An older gentleman rose from the back, his hand waving as if to fan away shadows of despair. "We've lived here for generations. My children grew up here, played in the same streets. Are we really going to give that up for a new shopping mall?" His voice cracked, and a murmur of approval spread through the room. Rosa felt the energy shift, igniting a fire beneath her. Exactly. This community thrives not on economic promises but on our deep roots, our connections. Change is possible without losing what makes us us. With revolution in their hearts, the crowd erupted in applause, a chorus of strong voices ringing in harmony. Tears streamed down the cheeks of mothers and fathers alike, wiping away the fog of uncertainty. Hope flickered in their eyes as whispers of solidarity began to build. But not everyone was convinced. From the shadows, a figure emerged, the slick, sharply dressed spokesperson of the developers. His presence demanded attention, eyes scanning the room like a hawk. "Ladies and gentlemen, let us not forget the opportunities this redevelopment brings. Jobs, growth, progress." The way he spoke dripped with confidence, but to Rosa, it felt hollow. "Progress at the cost of our history?" She shot back, her voice cutting through the air. "Do those jobs matter if it means losing our homes? Our culture?" The crowd erupted again, rallying behind her as if her words were bullets propelled by love. As tensions flared, Rosa realized they needed more than just words. They needed a plan. "We'll gather to discuss alternatives. We can present a vision of development that includes us, not erases us." After sharing ideas, applause filled the air again, a powerful movement igniting like a wildfire, but looming battles lay ahead. The developers weren't just going to back down. In the days that followed, Rosa's phone buzzed with unwavering support but also threats. "You're fighting the giants. They won't let you win." Her hands trembled as she read the messages, doubt creeping in like a thief in the night. As she prepared for the next meeting, a single thought echoed in her mind: what if our unity isn't enough? With hunger for change battling her fears, Rosa felt a stirring deep within. A question larger than herself loomed on the horizon. If her heart was set on saving Maplewood, what sacrifices would she need to make? Rosa stood at a crossroads, torn between preserving her community or protecting her family's safety. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the fight was far from over. And within that uncertainty, the anticipation hung thick as a storm cloud, brewing, waiting to unleash its fury. Would she find the strength, or would the giants conquer her resolve? The answer hovered just beyond reach, twisting into the next chapter of this battle for home and heart. Rosa sat at her kitchen table, the late afternoon sun spilling through the window, casting bars of light across the clutter. Notes and pamphlets lay strewn around her like fallen leaves, reminders of the battle ahead. She felt the weight of those materials pressing down on her, reminders of the community's hopes, their dreams, and fears. With a steaming cup of tea in her hand, she tried to steady her racing thoughts. Today's meeting was only days away, and the stakes had never been higher. The developers had launched a media campaign, spinning the narrative to paint the townsfolk as a band of reluctant naysayers. "We're the future," they claimed, slick commercials playing in every corner of the city. She could almost hear their snickers, see their arrogance spilling over into daily life. How could they think they knew what was best for Maplewood? But Rosa knew her neighbors, knew their stories, the laughter, the heartache, the bonds formed over years of shared experiences. A pang of determination filled her as she recalled her grandmother's words: "Our roots go deep, child. It takes more than a sun shower to wash us away." She grabbed her phone, dialing Tina, her close ally and lifelong friend. "Hey, can we meet tonight?" The urgency in her voice made Tina agree immediately, and soon a plan brewed between them. They needed to rally more strong voices, they needed to amplify their message. Later that evening, as they sat on the porch of Tina's home, surrounded by the comforting scent of blooming jasmine, ideas flowed like a river. They spoke about organizing an event, a gathering where everyone in Maplewood could express their thoughts. "Let us make it a block party. Bring the food, music, and stories. We need to show what Maplewood truly is," Rosa suggested, excitement lighting her features. Tina nodded vigorously, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Yes. We can invite local musicians, set up tables for people to share their stories, make it a celebration of our community." The warmth of hope threaded through their plans, but as the sun set, the shadows of doubt crept back into Rosa's mind. She worried about the risks. What if the developers retaliated? What if someone got hurt? But the urgency of action outweighed her fears. If they didn't stand now, they might lose their chance forever. The days flew by, and as the block party approached, Grassroots Maplewood began to swell with energy. Flyers were posted, neighbors chipped in to contribute food, and a local band agreed to play free of charge, eager to support the fight for their town. Rosa felt her spirit soar as she saw the community rally together, the warmth of unity igniting her hope. But then came the storm. The day before the party, Rosa returned home to find her front door slightly ajar. Anxiety spiked as she stepped inside, calling out, but silence swallowed her words. A note lay on the kitchen table, hastily scribbled, "Back off, or face the consequences." It was signed by the developers. Rosa's heart raced as she picked up the note, her hands shaking. This was it, the giants were coming for her. She stood frozen, a tidal wave of fear and determination crashing over her. Regardless of the threats, the gathering had to go on. This was her moment to rally the community, to fight back against the shadows. When the sun rose the next day, it found Rosa at the front of her house, determined and steady. As townspeople began to gather, Rosa took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. She could either succumb to fear or rise to the occasion. It was time to choose her path. With the pulse of the community resonating around her, Rosa moved to the front of the gathering crowd, knowing that their strength could turn the tides. The fight for Maplewood was just beginning, but would they stand strong against the storm together? Rosa's heart pounded as she stood before the crowd, a mixture of anticipation and anxiety bubbling inside her. The air was thick with the scent of barbecue and freshly baked goods. Laughter mingled with the sound of joyous chatter, a tapestry of voices that enveloped her. But under it all lay a current of tension, the kind that threatened to pull them all under. "Thank you all for coming," she called out, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Eyes turned toward her, some filled with admiration, others with uncertainty. She knew what this moment meant. This wasn't just a party, it was a stand. A declaration of their commitment to Maplewood. As she spoke about the importance of their heritage, the roots that bound them together, she saw nods from those gathered. She recounted tales from her childhood, memories of long summer days playing tag in the schoolyard, and how her grandmother had planted the seeds of hope in her heart. The stories flowed like a gentle stream, connecting past and present. "Together, we have created a community filled with love and resilience," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "The developers may have the money, but we have heart. We have each other." A roar of agreement surged from the crowd, amplifying the energy that coursed through the air. Tina stepped forward, holding a microphone. "We need to show them who we are. We need to show them why Maplewood matters." Cheers erupted, and Rosa felt a warmth wash over her, a surge of unity and purpose. Maybe, just maybe, they could face the storm together, but then a sudden silence fell, a chill wrapping around them. From the outskirts of the gathering, a figure appeared, tall and imposing. It was Bruce, the lead developer, flanked by a group of men wearing suits. Their presence darkened the festive atmosphere, replacing joy with apprehension. Rosa, Bruce called out, his voice smooth, but laced with condescension. Is this a block party or a circus? You really think you can stop progress with a few stories and a potluck? His laughter mockingly echoed, cutting through the warmth of the gathering. Rosa's stomach churned. She felt the eyes of her neighbors on her. Some expressions mirrored her own fear, while others burned with anger. This isn't about stopping progress, she fired back. It's about preserving our home. The tension crackled like static electricity, palpable and unnerving. Your home? This town is a goldmine just waiting for the right opportunity, Bruce countered, his smirk widening. You're simply trying to save a lost cause. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, caught between nostalgia and the harsh realities of the outside world. Then, as if sensing the growing fear, a voice from the crowd broke through. We're not a lost cause. It was Mrs. Thompson, an elder known for her wisdom and fierce loyalty. This town is made of our history, our struggles. We won't let anyone erase that. Her words ignited a fire within the crowd again, reminding everyone of their shared journey. Rosa looked at Mrs. Thompson, feeling a swell of gratitude. If they were to face Bruce together, they needed to hold tight to what they believed in. She turned back towards the developer, the fire in her heart roaring. We'll fight for Maplewood, and we'll show you just how strong we are. As the crowd began to chant Maplewood. Maplewood. The sense of unity surged back, but Bruce merely watched, a calculating grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. He stepped back, confidently suggesting, You have one chance to walk away, Rosa. Don't push your luck. The words echoed, a warning resonating in the hearts of everyone present. This was more than just a community gathering. It was the beginning of a fight that would define Maplewood's future. Rosa felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. What would it cost them to win? In that instant, she knew this battle would demand more than just stories and songs. It required strategy, courage, and perhaps sacrifice. Could they withstand the pressure? As the crowd's chants filled the air, Rosa felt an unsettling doubt creep into her mind. What more would they have to endure to protect their beloved home? Rosa took a deep breath as the crowd's chants throbbed like a heartbeat. Each beat resonated not just in her ears but deep within her chest. She felt the energy surging, a collective plea for hope mixed with fear. She looked around, the faces of her neighbors illuminated by the fading sunlight, which cast a warm glow but felt far too fragile given the threat looming over them. Listen! She shouted over the noise, raising her hand to calm the frenzy. The crowd quieted, their eyes trained on her, waiting. This is our home, and we will defend it, but we must be smart about it. Her heart raced as she spoke. Could they truly withstand the storm Bruce was promising? Tina stepped closer, her brow furrowed. What do you have in mind? Her voice was filled with concern, a reflection of the unspoken anxiety that floated between them like fog. Other neighbors leaned in, eager for guidance yet apprehensive. Rosa allowed a moment of silence to stretch, strategizing her next words. We need to gather our stories, evidence of what Maplewood really means to us. Memories, photographs, interviews. People need to see our lives beyond this gathering. We have to show what we will lose if Bruce gets his way. A ripple of energy passed through the gathered crowd. A few people began nodding, their expressions shifting from disbelief to inspiration. Mrs. Thompson spoke up again, her voice steady and commanding. I can help with that. I know many residents, and we all have stories to share. Others chimed in, pledging their support, offering their memories and unique talents. Rosa felt a solid foundation form beneath her feet as they began brainstorming. The fear that had once gripped her transformed into determination. They discussed how they could compile their memories into a visual presentation, a digital book that showcased the heartbeat of Maplewood. Art, music, poetry, a tapestry intertwined with personal stories. But just as hope began to swell, a sound sliced through the air. Laughter. It was Bruce again, this time with his crew, shaking their heads as they belittled the community's efforts. You really think that a scrapbook will change anything? You have no idea what you're up against. His mocking tone stung. It was as if he was stripping away their resolve with venomous ease. Rosa felt her blood boil. She stepped forward, meeting his gaze with defiance. You may have money and power, but we have something you can't buy, a legacy. And we will fight to protect it. The crowd roared in agreement, a unified voice against the encroaching threat. Rosa could feel the power of their commitment, but the nagging doubt crept back. Their unity was strong, but was it strong enough? They were going up against $1 billion development. They needed more than determination. They would need village leaders, local media, maybe even a legal strategy. Let us spread the word, Rosa called out. We need everyone to know what's happening here. We need journalists, activists, anyone who will listen. If they think we're going to back down, they're mistaken. As the people began to rally into action, the harsh reality still loomed over them. Alone and vulnerable, would their courage be enough when the spotlight shone brightly on them? She sensed a storm brewing, not just from the developer outside but also from within their very community. With renewed purpose, they dispersed to begin their work, their energy palpable. Yet, as Rosa stood there, she couldn't shake the feeling of fragility that hung in the air. What if they lost everything? How far were they willing to go for each other and for Maplewood? The sun dipped below the horizon, shadows lengthening on the ground as Rosa prepared to return home. She caught sight of Bruce's group lurking at the edge of the park, a looming reminder of the threats to come. Would this be the start of something greater, or the beginning of the end for Maplewood? As she walked away, her mind filled with questions, a subtle determination kindled within her. The fight had just begun, but what of the sacrifices still to come? Would she stand firm? When tested? Would they all? Rosa trudged home, the weight of the day resting heavily on her shoulders. Each step felt like a small victory, yet deep down a chill ran through her. She ignited a spark among her neighbors, but could it really light a fire against Bruce's cold, calculated plans? Entering her home, she was greeted by the comforting sights of familiar chaos, toys scattered on the floor, walls adorned with her children's colorful artwork, and the scent of her husband's famous chili simmering in the kitchen. For a brief moment, the warmth enveloped her, and she sighed, letting the ordinary joys wrap around her. But just as quickly, the tension in her chest returned. Rosa. How was the meeting? Her husband, Marcus, looked up from the stove, his brow slightly furrowed but a glimmer of pride lit his eyes. Intense, she replied, a fragile smile breaking through. We've got a plan, but Bruce and his team. She shook her head. They're not going to go down easy. Did you tell them what you told me? He asked, stirring the pot with a wooden spoon. About gathering stories? Yeah. It felt good seeing everyone rallying together, but we still need to get creative. I want to reach out to the high school, maybe get students involved. Their energy could be powerful. Establishing a connection with them might inspire the students to advocate for Maplewood too. That's brilliant, Marcus smiled. It could turn into an intergenerational thing. They have platforms, social media could amplify everything. Rosa's heart warmed at her husband's support. I hadn't thought about the kids as advocates. We'll brainstorm some ideas tomorrow. The evening passed in a blur of laughter and chatter as the family settled into their routine. Around the dinner table, laughter mingled with the aroma of comfort food. Yet, in her mind, Rosa could hear the menacing laughter of Bruce and his crew, taunting her resolve. She could picture them strategizing over pies in some lavish boardroom, dismissing the love and memories her small town held close. Later that night, as her children finally drifted to sleep, Rosa found herself under the dim light of her living room, surrounded by an array of photographs scattered across the dining table. Memories of birthdays, barbecues, and block parties brought a bittersweet smile to her face. Each image showed the life that had blossomed here, the community woven together like a patchwork quilt. Just then, her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Tina. We need to talk. Urgent. Meet me at the park. Rosa's heart raced. She shot up, throwing on a jacket. As she stepped out into the cool night air, her pulse quickened with a mix of anticipation and dread. The park was dark, but the silhouettes of trees danced under the soft glow of the moon. Tina was already there, pacing anxiously. Rosa. It's worse than we thought. Some of our neighbors are considering selling. They say it's too risky to fight Bruce. They want out. Rosa felt a knot tighten in her stomach. But we can't. This isn't just about dollars and cents. This is our home. I know, Tina said, her voice trembling. But I keep hearing rumors that Bruce is planning to sweeten the deal. He knows the pressure points. It's only a matter of time before they break. Rosa felt a sharp pain. Her heart sank at the thought of neighbors she had known her entire life, torn apart by fear. They were scared. And who could blame them? Then we have to do something drastic, Rosa said, her determination surfacing like wildfire. We can't let them win this way. We need to expose him more. Rally the media, invite them to Maplewood and show them who we are. It's time we make our voices heard in ways they can't ignore. As her words hung in the air, she realized they were standing at the brink of something monumental. A movement was brewing, but the choices they made now would define its impact. With resolution in her eyes, she glanced towards the horizon, a flicker of hope igniting in her heart. What would be their next step? Would the community rally behind her, or would the stakes pull them apart even further? The night felt heavy, charged with anticipation, as they silently vowed to fight for Maplewood, whatever it took. Rosa lay in bed, sleep eluding her as thoughts raced through her mind. The clock ticked on the wall, each second a reminder of the pressures mounting outside her insulated world. She stared at the ceiling, imagining the faces of her neighbors, their worry, fear, and doubt weighing far heavier than any burden she carried. Morning dawned with a crispness that brought clarity to her thoughts. She rolled out of bed, the chill of the hardwood floor grounding her. She made her way to the kitchen, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. Marcus, already awake, poured a steaming cup and handed it to her. Their fingers brushed, a fleeting connection that warmed her soul. "Today's the day," he said softly, eyes pools of understanding. "You'll gather your ideas, get everyone excited again. They need to see their hearts reflected in this fight." She nodded, determined. "I'll talk to Tina, see if she can get a few folks together for a brainstorming session at her place later. We'll need that energy." With her adrenaline kicking in, she threw on a light jacket and headed out to gather everyone she could. The sun peeked through the clouds, and a sense of urgency propelled her down the street. Rosa remembered how supportive her neighbors had once been, sharing recipes, stories, and laughter over backyard fences. She needed to reignite that spark. Tina was already at the community center. As Rosa entered, a handful of familiar faces turned to her, some smiling, others weary with uncertainty. She could feel the atmosphere ripple as they recognized her resolve. "We can't lose Maplewood," Rosa began, her voice steady. "I know Bruce is trying to divide us with fear, he's banking on it, but together, we can show him we're stronger. We need to speak out, tell our stories, capture hearts." A murmur of agreement rose from the group. Encouraged, Rosa shared her vision: let us create a community event. A day of sharing our stories, our memories, and our hopes for the future. We can invite reporters, show them what's at stake. They need to see the people behind the numbers. What if we can't convince them? What if it's too late? A voice piped up from the back. Her heart lurched. For a moment, doubt gnawed at her. But she shook her head. It's never too late. Not if we believe in what we're fighting for. Tina's expression shifted from fearful to fierce. We'll make signs. We can set up booths around the park like a festival. Let us use our strengths. Our kids can create artwork, we can cook our favorite food together. Excitement began to build, a flame kindling amid their uncertainty. Small ideas transformed into ambition. Soon, laughter spilled into the room, tearing down the walls of doubt brick by brick. Rosa felt the pulse of hope return, the kind that communities nurtured. As the plans took shape, a knock shattered the joyous atmosphere. The door creaked open, and a heavy presence filled the doorway. It was Bruce, flanked by his lawyers with their polished suits and icy expressions. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice smooth and condescending. "You're wasting your time. Accept my offer, or you'll face consequences you can't even imagine." The laughter died, replaced by a tense silence. Fear crept back in, whispering doubts louder than before. Rosa felt warmth churn within her. She stepped forward, facing Bruce's gaze. "And what if we're not scared?" He chuckled, but there was a sharpness to it, as if aware of the real stakes surrounding them. "When the community fires back, things will get very interesting," she declared, every word steady and loud. Could they hold their ground, or had she just ignited a battle none of them were ready to face? Rosa's insides churned as Bruce's expression hardened. What would they do now? Would the weight of their past stand strong against the chill of his threat? The air was electric, charged with bravery and fear, as everyone held their breath for what would come next. Rosa's heart pounded, each beat echoing in the sudden silence. The tension felt like a thick fog, wrapping around everyone in the room. She could sense the shifting emotions, the patrons' eyes darting, some flushing with shame, while others glimmered with a flicker of defiance. Bruce smirked, his confidence palpable. "Fear is a powerful weapon, my dear," he said, leaning against the doorframe like a monarch surveying his territory. "You think your little gathering of stories can withstand the kind of pressure I can apply?" Rosa's throat tightened, but she understood now. It wasn't just about Maplewood, it was about standing up to those who would leverage their power against the most vulnerable. She collected herself, grounding her feet firmly in place. "It's not fear I'm carrying, Bruce. It's love for my community," she stated, her voice gaining strength. A murmur of support rippled through the crowd. "Exactly," Tina shouted, her hands raised. "We're not just a number. We're neighbors, families, history. We'll fight." Rosa felt a swell of pride. She turned back to the group, igniting their energy. "What we're doing isn't just for us. It's for the next generation. It's for our kids to grow up free of these threats." The room began to buzz with chatter. Ideas flew like sparks. Some voiced plans for petition drives, while others considered an art showcase. They even tossed around the idea of a digital campaign to reach those beyond their community, a message too powerful to ignore. Bruce scowled, the confidence draining from his eyes. "You really think this will matter?" Before Rosa could respond, a voice emerged, old Mr. Henderson, slightly stooped but firm. "It matters to us, son. And it will matter to the people listening. They can't scare us if we're not afraid to stand tall." The older man's words landed with weight, a refreshing sense of solidarity reverberating through the aching silence. Rosa felt the warmth of shared humanity wrap around her, lifting the fears that had begun to cling to her spirit once more. "Let us make a plan," Rosa announced. "We need an urgent meeting. Everyone's here, and I want each of you to leave today committed to something. Whether it's mobilizing neighbors, planning visual displays, or spreading our message online, let us do it together. We need every voice." As Rosa spoke, she caught Marcus's eye across the room. His reassuring smile filled her with renewed hope. She trusted him to rally the energy of their neighbors. But before plans solidified, Bruce cleared his throat, repositioning himself with authority. "This isn't over, you know. I'll be back, and you'll wish you took my deal when you see the destruction that awaits," he threatened, a thinly veiled ultimatum. As he turned to leave, Rosa fought the panic rising at the back of her throat. "We'll be waiting, Bruce," she called after him. "We're not going anywhere." The door slammed shut behind him, but the adrenaline remained. A mixture of fear and defiance pulsed through Rosa's veins. They hadn't defeated him, but they had each other, and that was a powerful force. "Okay, everyone," she breathed, trying to gather her racing thoughts. "Let us break into groups. We'll need to divide and conquer." The crowd erupted into motion. Laughter and energy filled the once still room, turning it into a hub of determination. But amidst the chaos, dread coiled in Rosa's gut. The fight wasn't just for Maplewood, it was their lives and futures on the line. As ideas melded into action plans, Rosa's phone buzzed against her hip. A message popped up, a reminder about the city council meeting scheduled for next week. The stakes were about to rise even higher. Would they be ready for what lay ahead? Could they create a movement powerful enough to match the forces they were up against, or would they risk losing it all? The air hummed with uncertainty, and Rosa stood poised at the edge of the unknown. What new challenges awaited them as they prepared to take their stand against the looming threat? As excitement surged through the room, Rosa felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. It wasn't just a meeting anymore, it was a call to arms. She glanced back over the group, watching as conversations ignited and volunteers stepped forward, ready to take on specific roles. It was a beautiful sight, their initial fear transforming into determination. "Let us get creative," Rosa encouraged, her voice ringing with enthusiasm. "We can put together a neighborhood mural, telling our story through art. And I want someone to step up for social media. Let us make sure our message spreads far and wide." She watched as hands shot up. There was Gina, everything about her radiating passion. "Count me in for the mural. I can get my friends from the art school to help." "Social media?" A tall man with tousled hair and an easy smile chimed in. "That's me. I run a gaming stream, so I know a thing or two about going viral." The energy in the room shifted, taking on a life of its own, and Rosa felt her heart swell. They were transforming from a collection of individuals into a community, bonded by a shared purpose, but there was still a nagging thought in the back of her mind. Bruce's threat loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Would their unity be enough? Would love and determination stand tall against intimidation and greed? "All right, let us talk about our strategy for the council meeting," Marcus said. He stepped forward, always steady and reliable. "We'll need to bring our best testimonies. Rosa, you're the heartbeat of this fight. You should open with a strong statement about what's at stake." Rosa swallowed hard, a mixture of pride and anxiety swirling in her chest. Could she really be the one to speak out, to bring the community's voice to the forefront? What if I stumble? The thought danced at the edges of her mind. But she took a deep breath, pressing the worry down. She had to believe in herself for them. "No one has a bigger heart for Maplewood than you," Marcus reassured her, catching her eye. "You make people feel understood, and that's what we need." The meeting continued, the hours slipping by as ideas flowed freely. Groups formed, conversations bubbled, and Rosa felt more emboldened by the minute. She watched as her neighbors scribbled notes, mapped out strategies, and connected with each other in profound ways. They shared stories, laughter, fears, and dreams. This was their moment, but just as momentum seemed to reach a peak, Rosa's phone buzzed again. A new message popped up, sharper than the last. It read, "You have no idea what's coming. Enjoy your little meeting, but know that everything you build is on borrowed time." Chills ran down her spine. This was more than just a local fight now, they were up against powerful figures who wouldn't back down easily. The stakes had risen, and Rosa's instincts kicked into overdrive. "Listen up!" Rosa shouted, her voice slicing through the chatter. The room fell silent, everyone turning toward her. "We have to prepare for more than just words. Bruce is not done with us. We need to think about how we'll protect ourselves and our plans." Murmurs of concern filled the air, but Rosa pressed on. They could feel the tension, too. They understood. It was about more than just the council meeting, it was about standing against a looming threat that sought to silence them. What could they do beyond just actions to inspire? How could they fortify their community against the invisible forces of doubt, corruption, and fear? With resolve tightening her chest, Rosa met the eyes of her neighbors once more. Would they be able to thwart whatever Bruce had planned? As she felt the weight of their collective gaze, the question lingered heavily in the air. Were they ready for the battle that lay ahead, and could they ignite a revolution powerful enough to shatter the attempts to stifle their voices? And with that, Rosa took a deep breath, ready to lead them to the next step of their fight. Rosa stood at the city council meeting, her heart racing. The tension in the room was thick, a mix of anticipation and anxiety that mirrored her own. She looked around, taking in the gathered townspeople, each face etched with determination and fear. Today, everything would change. As she approached the microphone, her hands trembled but she stood tall. Maplewood is not just a place on a map, it's our home, our heart, she began, her voice steady. We are here to show you who we are and what we stand for. The crowd erupted in supportive cheers, a wave of energy that filled her with strength. Rosa shared stories from her people, memories of kids playing in the streets, families gathering for block parties, traditions that stretched back generations. The room lit up with emotion. Faces turned moist with tears, hands clutched in solidarity. This was their community, their history, and they wouldn't let anyone erase it. Then, Bruce strolled in, fancier than ever, flanked by his slick lawyers. Really, Rosa? Are you trying to play the hero? His smirk dripped with condescension. These people don't know the first thing about business. Anger flared within Rosa. They may not wear suits, Bruce, but they know the value of family and heritage better than you ever will. The crowd erupted. Those gathered cheered, their voices intertwining in a melody of resistance. Rosa felt a rush, a tingling surge of hope. This was it. This was where they would draw the line. As the night continued, testimony after testimony rang out. Neighbors shared their experiences, their fears. A schoolteacher spoke of her students' dreams, a single mom told of her grandmother's legacy. With every story, every courage-filled voice, the atmosphere thickened with purpose, shining a light on their collective truth. But Rosa knew Bruce wouldn't sit idly. He leaned back in his chair, a smug grin plastered on his face. He waited, then stood. You think these stories change anything? You're simply delaying the inevitable. His tone was cool, dismissive, but Rosa wouldn't back down. She raised her hand, silencing the murmurs. You're wrong, Bruce. Our stories aren't just words. They're our lives, our connections. We are Maplewood. And together, we are stronger than any billion-dollar corporation. Cheers erupted again, echoing against the walls, igniting a flame of rebellion that seemed to vibrate through the air. Rosa took a deep breath, the echoes of her community's support weaving through her. As the night wore on, Bruce's smug demeanor cracked, just slightly. His confidence, once palpable, began to wane. The crowd, emboldened, began to chant Maplewood. Maplewood. Overhead, the lights flickered like stars in the night, reflecting their shared determination. Finally, the mayor spoke, his voice resonant. It's clear how passionate this community is. We hear you. He looked at Bruce, and for a moment, the tension shifted. If redevelopment is to occur, it must integrate the spirit of Maplewood, not erase it. Rosa's heart leapt. Was this the turning point? She felt a wave of relief wash over her. The mayor's words fueled her belief that they could come to a compromise if they stood united. Together, but just as hope began to settle in, Bruce leaned forward, fury boiling in his tone. This little charade doesn't scare me. I won't back down. You'll regret this. With his last venomous words, he stormed out, but not without leaving a chill behind. That night, as the community spilled out onto the streets, joy mixed with anxiety danced in Rosa's chest. As she walked home, surrounded by her neighbors, a sense of triumph enveloped her. They had stood together, faced the storm, and emerged stronger. The journey wouldn't be over, not yet. But Rosa had found something undeniable, an unwavering spirit among her neighbors, a shared light that couldn't be dimmed. They had proven they would fight for each other, fight for their town. The days passed, filled with planning and partnership. Rosa and her friends organized town meetings, invited the media, reached out to local leaders. The more they spread the word, the stronger their community grew. Families banded together, their roots intertwining as if they were trees, deeply anchored in the soil of a shared purpose. Finally, the time came for another council meeting, and this time, they arrived more prepared than ever. Armed with stories, visuals, and the undeniable strength of their collective heartbeat echoing through the room, they were ready to face whatever came next. As Rosa stood at the front once more, surrounded by her neighbors, she couldn't help but smile, a radiant testament to hope and unity. Maplewood is more than just history, she declared, her voice strong and unwavering. This is our future. And with that, they knew this fight was theirs. And whatever the outcome, they would rise and stand, hand in hand, united. The journey had transformed them, and the love they shared became their greatest weapon. They had turned the tides against doubt, against greed, and together, they would conquer it all. So, what are you waiting for? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.